Hello. In this tutorial, I will cover in-text citations. First, we will introduce the types of citations you can use. Then we will go over the elements needed for in-text citations. I will then discuss the differences between paraphrasing and direct quotes, and when to use a block quote. And finally, we will address citing works with multiple authors and citations with no authors. Now, there are two ways you can cite a source in your paper. The first method is called a parenthetical citation, because your in-text citation is at the end of the sentence and will be enclosed in parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you will list the author and page number. Note that the final period of your sentence will follow the citation, even if you end with a quote. The other method you can use is a narrative citation, where you will use the author's name in the body of your text. The page number will appear at the end of the sentence, and it will be in parentheses. Now let's cover what goes into an in-text citation. In MLA, you will need two elements, the author's last name and the page number. It's recommended to use paraphrasing when citing your sources, as it will make your paper look more professional, but if your source is a novel or a poem, direct quotes may be more effective. Speaking of direct quotes, when you're using one from the source, you will need to include both the author's name and the page number the quote begins on. Make sure that the citation is not included in the quotation marks and that the final period follows the citation. So now if you have a quote that is more than 3 lines of poetry or 4 lines of prose, you will need to use a block quote. All the lines of the quote will be indented 1/2 inch from the left margin, and the citation will be at the end of the block and in parentheses. As you can see in the examples here, you will introduce your quote in the body of your text. The last sentence before the block quote will end with a colon. You can use either a parenthetical or a narrative citation for block quotes. Note that the final period will come before the citation, unlike when you're using paraphrasing or a direct quote. Now we will finish with listing multiple authors and citations with no authors. If we have 2 authors, we will simply separate their last names and then list the page number after the second author. When using a narrative citation, you will also use the word "and" to separate the authors, and then put the page number at the end of the sentence. If you have more than 3 authors, list only the first author followed by et al., which just means there are more. Note that et al. Ends with a period, so make sure to include it on both the parenthetical and narrative citations. And if we have no authors, we will use a shortened version of the title. There is no exact specification, but make sure that there's enough of the title to avoid any ambiguity. And there's also one other rule for citations with no author. If it's a book, the title will be italicized, and if it's a magazine article, online or in print, or a website, the title will be in quotation marks. So that wraps up in-text citations. Remember, this is just the first of a 2-part system for properly citing your sources. The second step is a corresponding entry in the work cited at the end of your paper. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out to the library, and thank you for watching.